Hey Fest fans and industry insiders, welcome back to Event Explorer. I'm your host Daniel Roth, and today I've got a special episode lined up that dives into the world of songwriting festivals, specifically the Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals. Now, if you're in the events industry or just a fan of live music, you know there's something really unique about a festival that focuses on the art of songwriting. It's not just about the music, it's about the stories behind the songs, the intimacy of the performances, and the connection between the artists and the audience. In this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Mike Booth, the executive director of the Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals. Mike has been at the helm of these festivals since 2016, and he shares some incredible insights into how these events have grown, the impact they've had on his local communities, and the importance of supporting music education. We've also talked about the challenges of organizing such intimate festivals across multiple venues, and the magic that happens when songwriters and fans come together in these beautiful settings. So, whether you're thinking about attending a songwriting festival, planning one, or just curious about the inner workings of these events, this episode is for you. And stick around, and if you enjoy our conversation, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Let's get to it. All right, today I am thrilled to welcome Mike Booth to the show. Mike is the executive director of the Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals organization. Since 2016, his work has brought hundreds of songwriters and thousands of fans together, all making a significant impact on music education in his region. Mike, we're excited to dive into your story and learn more about the magic behind these festivals. Welcome to the Event Explorer podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here and talk about what we do.
Awesome. So, in that vein of what you do, can you give me an overview? I know that, Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals is actually a few festivals in combination that all bring music to your region. Could you let me know a little bit about kind of what the breadth of your organization does?
So the Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals is really just a parent organization that promotes three different songwriter festivals. The oldest is here in Red Lodge, Montana. We've been doing it here about 8 years. The second one, which is coming up in 3 weeks, is in Cody, Wyoming. That's the Yellowstone Songwriter Festival. And then our newest festival will be first weekend in October, and that's in Livingston, Montana. That's the Livingston Songwriter Festival. So we, at the end of the year, we produce three similar but different songwriter festivals in three communities. And all kind of surrounding Yellowstone Park. That's not by design. That just happens to be in the area we live.
Excellent. And so 2016 is when you kicked off the Red Lodge Festival. What was the inspiration for this? Did you see a need? Was there a group of songwriters there? Was there an audience there that you really wanted to cater to?
I'm not a musician. I have a corporate organization background, promoted large conventions and events, and I'm from Red Lodge. I moved back here in 2011 and 2015. I was looking for something to do, and growing up, there was a lot of festivals and events in Red Lodge, and we were lacking at the time for something in addition to the 4th of July, frankly, and so friend of mine asked me about, have you ever heard of a songwriter festival? Which at the time I had never had. So did a little research and found some other festivals going on. Most of them happen to be in the southeast part of the country. But we kind of patterned the first one. I think the first one in 2016 had 10 songwriters, 4 hit songwriters, and 6 rising stars. And really didn't know what to expect. I was fortunate enough to have some backing in town financially. And then after we did the first one, people said, "You're going to do that again, aren't you?" And so we kind of said, "Well, I think so." So the first one led to the second one. And now 9 years later, we just continue to build, and we ventured out into some other communities.
That's lovely. Yeah, it really brings a unique kind of offering. It's not just your typical kind of rock music festival. It's more of a storyteller focused, I imagine. Or are you telling stories, or have you noticed the artists telling stories about the West and kind of the region that you're in? Is that some of the focus of the festival?
Not so much in that the storytelling is a huge part of what we do, and obviously with songwriters, a huge part of what they are. So the stories are a big part of it. We bring songwriters in from all over the country. So we do have some local songwriters, or regional songwriters, but folks come from Nashville and Texas and North Carolina and Rhode Island, and just trying to think all the different places people are coming from this year to play our festivals. And we've been very blessed that we've gained the attention of the songwriting community, and so people venture to come and play our festival. Our festival is all acoustic, and they're all in songwriter rounds. So when you go into a venue, you might see anywhere from 2 to 3 songwriters sharing a stage. Some places called guitar pull. We call it songwriter round. So you'll see 3 different songwriters, and one will play, and then another one will play, and then as the weekend builds, then they become familiar with each other and friends, and you find a lot of accompaniment and collaboration on some of the songs, and it's very organic. For the most part, some of them may have a set list, but it's just what comes to mind when it comes their turn to play. So I think that's kind of the cool thing about songwriters and songwriting. It is, for the most part, very organic.
Very cool. And some of that organic material they draw from is the location, I imagine, or at least, they're not writing songs about it. They've already got some of these songs written, but they're influenced by it. And I imagine that's kind of a draw for fans and songwriters alike, the Cody and Red Lodge area out in Montana and Wyoming.
Huge draw, huge part of what we do. And we try to incorporate some extracurricular activities for the songwriters while they're here, so they can experience some of Montana, whether it's take them into Yellowstone Park or take them on a river. So we try to just expose them to why we live here and why we think it's a great place to live. And then many of them, after they've left, have written songs about the festival or the area or Montana. So it has become very inspirational for these writers. So it's real cool. And then, a lot of our fans come from the South. Obviously, June in Montana or September in Wyoming is a lot cooler than Nashville or Florida or Austin. So, and those fans down there are, they're used to going to see songwriters. That's kind of what they prefer. So to travel up here is a nice vacation, and they get to see what they see at home.
Very cool. I imagine, for the fans as well. Do you have a lot of people traveling in for the songwriter festivals as kind of the crown jewel of their trip to the area?
Over 50% of our fan base is from out of the state of Montana. I think in Red Lodge this year we counted 35 states and 2 countries among our ticket buyers. So we've really become a destination festival, which is really good for the local economy and so forth. And we've really have developed a loyal fan base. The other thing that really works in our favor is being at any one of our festivals in the communities we're located in. We're an hour from Yellowstone Park. So to come to Red Lodge or Livingston, spend some time seeing great music, they can also take a day trip into Yellowstone, which is obviously a very attractive place to go.
Very cool. So, and how is the festival structured as far as timeline goes? It runs, I know Red Lodge and Yellowstone may operate a little bit differently, but I imagine there's some downtime to go explore the park. There's some evening events. How are you structuring these days for the festival in order to get people kind of the most bang for their buck?
We start our festivals on Thursday afternoon, about 5:00, and they run pretty much all day Friday and Saturday. We do late night stuff. So I think Red Lodge, there's the most. We'll produce 40 shows in about 2.5 days. Cody and Livingston will be 30 shows. So everything from in the mornings, we start about 10:30 in the morning with the local coffee shop. We bring in songwriters to do interviews with local hosts, and they talk about their careers and being on the road, and then they actually will play a few songs. And then we go right into songwriter rounds about 1 in the afternoon, and depends on the community, but at any given time, there could be 3 to 5 rounds going on concurrently in different venues throughout the community. And then usually we just do one show in the evening, and that's with the hit songwriters. And those are songwriters primarily from Nashville, although some of them live in other places now, but they have written songs for, you name it, Eddie Rabbitt, Kenny Rogers, Kenny Chesney, the biggest of the big hits. And so it's always fun to have them. And that's where we get our biggest crowds, is in those shows in the evening. And then we usually follow with an evening live late night, whether it could be a songwriter will bring his band and take the stage, or sometimes the songwriters themselves will do cover songs and play together. So it's just, and those are usually free to the community just to attract a younger crowd. We start on Thursday and we're done about midnight on Saturday.
Very cool. So all these different shows are happening, at the same time. How have you found venues as the festival's grown? Where did you start venue wise, and how have you grown over the years?
We most of the venues, let's say most of the venues are either bars or restaurants within the community, and they're very engaged. They like to have people in there in the afternoons, which are not normally a heavily trafficked area. So, to have 60 to 100 people at 3 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday afternoon is they benefit from. And we actually, for the most part, have people wanting to be venues, and we just don't have enough shows at this point. So we could have more venues than we do today.
Has this helped the music scene in the cities as well, in Red Lodge and Cody? Have you seen kind of an impact rolling on into the community?
Huge impact. And, a lot of these songwriters that have played here will come back through and do shows at different places when they're routing through the areas. Some of the venues are smart enough to make contact with the songwriters and continue a relationship, invite them back to play. So have elevated the quality of music considerably. Livingston's maybe a little different in that Livingston, Montana is, it's really kind of becoming the music mecca of Montana, especially in the summertime. They have 2 primary venues that host. This week alone, Bruce Hornsby and Al King played in some of those venues. So they have a lot of great music. So we're just kind of dovetail on that. But again, a lot of these same songwriters will route back through when they're in the area or traveling back and forth. So it certainly has elevated and I think the other thing for us, it's really increased the awareness of songwriters and what a songwriter show is. And that's been a great benefit.
Very cool. I imagine some of those songwriters you mentioned that you get kind of these established artists and the rising stars. How do you have a team that works on curation? How have you? I know it was kind of a new area for you. I'm guessing 8 years in, you're gaining your expertise as I'm gleaning from this conversation. But from the first year and then now, how do you curate this group of songwriters?
It's certainly evolved. At the very beginning, it was mostly Montana songwriters. But as it's grown, a lot of our songwriters want to come back. Though we have that benefit of inviting people we want to come back. And we have some that submit to us, and we take a very select few of those. And then I personally travel and see a lot of music. So, I'll go to Texas and see a festival down there. Or I'll go to Nashville. And I see a lot of these artists personally. So then we can invite them, the ones that we want to come. We don't pay a lot of money. So then they have to, for the rising stars have to pay their own way, and to come to Montana in the summer is not an inexpensive thing, but they find their way here. It's really kind of humbling to me to see what they do. And then the other piece of it, we have a songwriting contest. It'll start in October, runs through March, and we take up to 100 submissions. And out of that contest, we're able to glean a lot of songwriters that we want to come and play as rising stars. So it's evolving. There's kind of a downside to that too. Some of the songwriters that helped us launch these festivals, frankly, aren't good enough to play with some of the other songwriters anymore. So they kind of got left behind. And personally, many of those are friends. So it's kind of hard to see that, but it is, my job as a producer is to put the best quality music on stage for what our budget allows us. So that's what we do.
And they're benefiting.
Yeah, the hit songwriter is a little different thing. It's all invitation only. And primarily they're songwriters that are in their 60s and maybe even 70s that wrote songs in a day that you could be a songwriter and make a fair amount of money. When we all bought albums and CDs, which is kind of a good and bad thing. They've written a huge song this year. Matraca Berg, who wrote You and Tequila, were here. Van Brief Van Oy, that wrote Golden Ring for George Jones and Tammy Wynette. But at the same time, it tends to attract an older generation. So there is some challenges with that. And most of the songwriters today in Nashville are also performers, so hard to afford them for a small festival like ours.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, they are getting a performer's fee. It's there's draw from them from all over different kind of festivals and just music festivals, not songwriter festivals. So you've got to compete there. I imagine there's an interest in playing to the audience that would come to a songwriters festival. It's an audience that you kind of hear a pin drop in the room. They're really hanging on every word and they want to hear that story. What's the feeling like in these rooms? Is it pretty special like that people are really keyed in?
Very keyed in. And we work to that extent too. We have signage that suggest we're a listening room and keep conversation to a minimum. But very much so. And I think that's part of the draw for the songwriters too. They get to play to an audience that's listening. They're not background noise in a bar or restaurant. So they really appreciate that. They get to showcase their music. And our audiences probably tend to be a little older, probably 40 to 70 is our age demographic.
So they're not they know what they're in for. They're not necessarily coming for some riotous party. It's a relaxing event. It's somewhere where you're kind of getting in touch with the sensitive side of songcraft and the poetry of it.
Yeah, those shows. That's where you want to, a good songwriter will make people cry. They'll make people laugh. They'll make people, recall an old memory. And then our late night stuff is really kind of where we kick it up and people can come in and drink and talk and party a little bit. And that's kind of what those shows are designed to be as well. So literally I don't want to say something for everybody, but we do try to add that as an additional dimension.
Sure. Variety definitely enriches the show that way. And not all songs, in my experience, I've been to an intimate concert. I've actually heard the same song sometimes at an intimate concert and at a loud, bigger stage event. And the song can be effective in different ways. So I think that's cool that you're providing that variety. Speaking of kind of bringing up the newer generations and making an impact on the community, how those tie together, you've had some music education donations and charitable work that you've done. How did that come about? How have you, where did the importance for that come from? I imagine it's been a goal of yours to help out and bring up the next generation. Can you tell us a little bit about the community work and the impact that you have there?
Well, as a nonprofit, obviously you need to have a mission. And so and then, just not just in Montana, but all across the country, arts and music programs are really taking a backseat to other things in the school. And so funding is being cut and those kind of things. And so being involved in a small community, I could just see what's happening right here and then see also what's going on across the country. So anyway, what we do with our music education, we take a portion of our proceeds from the year and one local university, one community college. We provide scholarships to music students. We try to prefer that those are local students, although there isn't always a local student that's pursuing a career in music. So we do some scholarships. We give money to the local high schools for choir uniforms, for instruments, whatever we can do to try to make it easier for kids to learn to play music, and then also encourage them to pursue an education in music, which is not always the case in rural areas.
I imagine, do you work with high schools and things like that too? Are you getting even younger generations in at all?
We primarily work with universities and high schools, although we have done some smaller stuff, Montessori school. I'm trying to think about another younger kid. I think it was 6 through 12 down in Wyoming that we provided some money for. So that's primarily on the education side. And we're starting to kind of veer a little bit to try to dabble in the world of mental health. We're not sure exactly where that might go for us, but we also realize that mental health and musicians, mental wellness is important. A lot of them are out there traveling by themselves, dealing with personal issues we all deal with, but being out there by yourself and doing your own promoting and booking and all those kind of things, and the financial difficulties of being a full-time musician tend to wear on folks. So anyway, we're trying to develop some programs that might help in the area of mental wellness for musicians.
Very cool. Well, yeah, and needed. I mean, it's probably a cathartic experience, but people really do put their heart on the line for these performances, and it can be pretty emotional. So these are people that are in touch and need support and community and conversation. So that's fantastic that you're doing that. Speaking of community, you mentioned visiting other songwriter festivals. As you've grown, is there a network of songwriter festivals and people that you talk to get ideas from, to get guest ideas from, to visit with?
Yeah, there's not a formal network per se, but just, going out and she's actually retired, but Pam Owens, who ran the Dripping Spring Songwriter Festival for a long time, she's a good friend. And so we were constantly bouncing things off each other. I have another association here with a woman named Sarah Calhoun that produces the Red Ants Pants Music Festival. It's not a songwriter festival per se. It's a big summer music festival here in Montana, but there's still a lot of commonality between events. And so, we'll bounce things off each other and so forth. So, I think, and then I was looking at your website this morning, I think the more things like this to kind of help folks, and certainly, like for me, I'm always looking for somewhere to go that does multiple venues because it is a different type of show than doing a one stage or center stage and those kind of things. So, I've been to 30A in Florida and Texas to a few, and so always looking for that other one to learn from because. It's just, you got to keep evolving. You got to keep getting better. There's a lot of money out there, a lot of competition for entertainment dollars. So you just got to stay on your game.
And this is what you mentioned, the different venues. It's a cool way to kind of bring a town to life, and for a different audience too. It's not, I imagine that the communities that you're working with, like this audience, they're from 40 to 70. These people are, mid-career. They're doing well. They have the ability to travel out to the community, and you're pulling people, from over 30 states and a couple countries. Do you integrate with your local government? Have you talked to them? Do you work with your kind of local boards of commerce and things like that in order to help grow the festival or make the impact better on the community?
We work real close with our local chamber of commerce in each one of our communities, and we get support from them, both the financial as well as helping us promote it. Montana Department of Tourism is very supportive of festivals and events like this. So we do get a fair amount of that kind of stuff. And, frankly, part of our design when we began this years ago was to really create a downtown festival. We get requests all the time to do shows, 5 miles out of town or at somebody's barn or something, and we continue to stay away from those opportunities, because what we want to do is we want our fan to park a car or stay in a downtown hotel and just go show to show to show. And while they're walking downtown around to see shows, they're also eating dinner, they're eating lunch, they're going in the shops to buy local stuff. So it really becomes an economic driver. And it's actually in our mission to promote destination music fans to those communities, which in turn then helps the local economy. And that's, if you look at the timing of all of our festivals, it's either just before or just after prime tourist season in Montana. So part of our design too is to extend the tourist season either earlier or later than normal traffic.
Very smart, very smart. So looking at the calendar and I would think that the city's kind of is receptive to that. They're willing to support this effort even more than the boom time, where it's, they're kind of thriving at that time, but here that's really cool. So you're taking the shoulder season and extending it a little farther and selling more hotel room nights, getting more butts and seats in restaurants over the time of your festival.
Yeah.
So it does sound, where we're talking to music festivals that bring in 10,000 people and have these giant stages, and you've got hundreds, thousands of guests coming in. These smaller, more intimate shows, but I imagine people are kind of maybe more willing to pay a little bit of a higher ticket price to support it, and perhaps it sounds great that you have a business model that is working for something that doesn't need 10,000 people and maybe even causes, a little bit of a negative impact on the local community. Yours is pretty much all net positive because of the lighter footprint that you have in the kind of higher tax bracket of the guests, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, and I would say we're not that smart that it what it is today, it wasn't necessarily the plan when it started. A lot of it's just, we learned and evolved in. But I would also tell you, we can't survive without the support of business sponsors and individual patrons. So about 50% of our revenues are made up from ticket sales, and the other 50% are local sponsors and individual patrons. And that's a lot of the work that we do, is raising money. And where a lot of these festivals, it is all about ticket sales. But then the other thing about is, our tickets, I think our most expensive ticket is an all-access pass in Red Lodge, which is about $235. So you can just buy a day, and that'll get you into all the shows. Or you can buy just a day pass to see the rising stars for $25. So we really have a wide array of offering, and you can get pretty cheap or expensive. And I would also just share with you that our rising stars, the quality of those folks, because they are also performers as well as songwriters, are often as good or better than the hit songwriters per se. Because many of our hit songwriters, while they wrote great songs, they aren't necessarily great performers, because that wasn't what they did when in the height of their careers. They were in a writing room and writing hits for Patricia Berg or not Patricia Berg, but Martina McBride or whoever it may be.
Sure. So the future, it does, you're kind of up and running. You have your third festival starting. What does this year look like as far as the schedule and growth? What does 2024, 2025 look like? And what's your thoughts about kind of next 5 years?
Um, Assuming the economy continues the way it is now, we don't have a significant downturn in the economy. I think our Red Lodge will continue to grow. I think we have to try to figure out how we can grow this another 30% because that's what the fan base is telling us it's going to go. So we just need to be able to have enough capacity in our venues and number of shows to accommodate more people. I think Cody will continue to grow, not as quite as much. And then Livingston. And one of the things that I think makes us different is, having the multiple venues, songwriter type of town versus the main stage. I mean, there is so many festivals. I know here in Montana, things that are sprouting up every summer. It's just getting so competitive. Some are small, some are big. But to compete in that arena, I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder. And unless you're very well funded, I don't know how you're going to survive that. So again, I think just for us to continue to execute our model and do it well and bring in the best songwriters from around the country, I think we'll continue to grow.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to watching the story as it unfolds. I definitely see the growth potential there. It's so cool to see, just over these last, almost decade, how far you've come already. You're definitely, pulling people from all these different locations. How do you, just one last thought that struck me is how are you marketing the festival? Is it going through a lot of the artists? Are there channels that you're pursuing that are pulling all these people from all over the country?
That network of artists, but you can, social media. I mean, as much as people want to be disparaging to social media, Facebook's primarily. It works. And we do a lot of organic stuff. We market all year long, but we also, we spend a lot of money on digital marketing. So, we have an agency that places ads on Google and Facebook and Instagram. And so that's primarily where it comes from. We do have a few associations with other festivals, but most of it is paid digital marketing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the way to get the megaphone, in a smaller town, in a region that people may not be having their eye on all the time unless they're planning a beautiful vacation. So this is a good way to as they're planning that, if I go 2 weeks later, I can visit Yellowstone and I can see some great songwriters and have, that passion fulfilled as well. So very cool. Very cool. Well, congratulations on the upcoming festival, the new one. And I know Yellowstone isn't too far away, right? What are the dates again of the festivals this year?
The Yellowstone Songwriter Festival in Cody is September 5th through the 7th. And then the Livingston Songwriter Festival is October 4th and 5th. And we'll keep that the first weekend in October.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll get in there before the snow and keep some of the beautiful fall scenery up there. I'm sure will be a nice draw too. So
yeah, well, you need to come up and attend one of our festivals.
I would. That sounds lovely. I haven't been I think I might have set foot in Montana, but I spent a lot of time in Wyoming, and I just know how beautiful it is. And it's a very cool culture. You kind of go up there expecting just this Western thing, but there's some hip folks and some really there's some upstarting brands, some startup brands, and even technology up there that I think the growth you're seeing is definitely going to continue because sorry, your beautiful corner of the world is going to be more and more populated as people just learn about how great it is to live up there and how clean the air is and how beautiful the nature is. So I would love to plan a trip out there. That does sound like something I'd like to do in the future. So thanks for the invitation.
And where are you located?
I'm in Detroit here.
Okay.
But I've been in the events industry for over 20 years, and I've put on music festivals and staged all kinds of different events, from corporate to public to, big ticketed events, including in Wyoming too. So I just, what my favorite thing about festivals and traveling to put them on and traveling to see them is really integrating with the local community that you do, as well. So I know I would get, my jollies there if I come visit. So thanks for the invitation and thanks for joining here today. I think this is a lot of great information for people that'll be pursuing a good time like you provide, or maybe songwriters or people interested in throwing their own songwriting festival. So I hope you inspire some folks here.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
You bet. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. A big thank you to Mike Booth for joining us and sharing his experiences and expertise putting on these Rocky Mountain Songwriter Festivals. It's always inspiring to hear about the passion and dedication that goes into creating these really special events. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment and subscribe to Event Explorer wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're at it, leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people who are just as passionate about these events as we are. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're always sharing behind-the-scenes content, updates, and more. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode and what you'd like to hear in the future. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode. Happy exploring.